So, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, depending on where you are in the world. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Martin Snooks from Quark. I'm a enterprise sales executive here, and I'm joined by my colleague Richard Worrell. And Richard is a product manager. So we wanted to take a little bit of time this afternoon to share with you a couple of new features that came out in our latest release at the back end of 2024. One of them is an out-of-the-box artificial intelligence capability. I'm sure you're aware AI is something that is very hot in the technology space at the moment, and one that we know can bring significant advantages to our customers in the component content management system space. So we'll be touching on that. We're also going to touch on the new integration that we have with Adobe InDesign. We appreciate there are a number of customers out there that use Adobe and Quark and want to be able to integrate content between the two. So in terms of what we'll be covering this afternoon, I'm just going to give you a quick introduction to Quark as a company, talk a little bit about Quark Publishing Platform, or QPP Next Gen. I'm then going to share with you some findings from a survey that we did last year with IDC regarding AI. The survey was about more than just AI, but a component of it, just to get some feedback on that topic. Then going to hand over to Richard. He's going to get into the meat of the presentation and talk about what our latest release offers in terms of AI features, and in addition, what we are doing around having some closer integration with Adobe InDesign. At the end of the session, we're going to leave some time for Q&A, and once we get there, we'll ask you to put your questions on the chat, and we'll do our best to respond to the questions before we finish the session. The session is being recorded. If any of you would like a copy of the recorded session, we're more than happy to share that with you subsequently. So just tell you a little bit about Quark in a nutshell. What do we do? Well, we help organizations, large enterprises, we help them automate the creation, the production of their highly regulated or highly complex documents, often that require a great deal of collaboration across teams. And we help them to publish and approve those documents faster, whilst staying compliant and even improving the quality of the data that goes into those final documents. And we do that across a number of sectors. You can see a number of those are represented here in terms of our existing customers. So the sectors that we work in are financial services, pharmaceutical sector, government, manufacturing, and to a lesser degree, utilities, research and education. And in terms of how we help them publish more quickly and stay within the guidelines regulations, we do that through the QPP Next Gen Quark Publishing Platform. And our whole philosophy is about automating the full end-to-end process, all the way from planning, right the way through to publishing and analysis of content and reports, and in doing so, eliminating the manual handoff, the copy and paste, the inherent error-prone nature of what is quite a mandolic legacy process for a number of organizations. And I'm not going to steal Richard's thunder, but just to touch on a couple of areas where we use AI. So, for example, at the very beginning, where we're creating some content, be that a report, whatever it might be, we're using QPP to analyze content components and suggest relevant metadata tags that can be instantly applied, enabling writers and SMEs to automatically add one or multiple keywords at this stage in just a few clicks. Doing that correctly and getting that done early leads to improved content searchability and reuse later in the process. We then enable those individuals involved in creating the reports, creating the content, to collaborate together far more effectively, make that process very efficient, using role-based workflows rather than email. A key part of what we do is the reuse of components. To give you a very simple but powerful example of this, working with an organization at the moment where they have 58 publications documents, all of which have a legal disclaimer on them, and they have 22 different versions of that legal disclaimer at the moment. What they're trying to do is harmonize that legal disclaimer. So effectively, once we create one version of that legal disclaimer within Quark, if it changes, it is instantly replicated in all of those documents across the organization, whether that be marketing, sales, funding, whatever it might be. We then use AI, machine learning again for the publishing aspect. Again, I'm not going to stir Richard's thumb on, you already talked about them during the publishing phase. And at the back end of the process, we have some very robust analysis that will enable you to look at your process and identify whether there are any bottlenecks and ways that you can improve your efficiencies. Sure. So I just wanted to share with you a bit of context before we get into the detail of what Quark is doing with AI. So last year with the IDC, an industry analyst firm, we surveyed hundreds of respondents that are involved in the content management space across North America, UK, Nordics, Germany, and France. And it was a very large survey. This is just a subset of it. But one of the things we wanted to ask them was about their views of AI. And as you can see from this first slide, in terms of how they thought AI could contribute to content strategy, it was overwhelmingly positive. And that's interesting. I attend exhibitions and webinars and conferences. And the past couple of conferences that I've attended, not everybody was quite as positive. However, this question was specifically in the context of CCMS. And as you can see, the vast majority of respondents were very positive about the opportunities that it presents. A big chunk, just over half of them are already testing AI, already doing POCs out there with vendors. And more than half have already significantly invested in AI and have an established spending plan moving forward. So subject is not new to those involved in content management, and over more than half of organizations already have some significant investment in that area. One of the final questions we asked execs were, what were their concerns about the adoption of AI? The first one was that it could potentially create some brand or regulatory risk. But of course, what we always advise is that when you are putting together regulated content, is that whilst AI can help accelerate that process, you should always have a human in the loop. You should always have an expert in the loop to make sure that the AI data is accurate. Secondly, AI is a big topic and encompasses a number of different areas. Organizations are concerned that they may lack skills in that area. It's, as with all new technology, there isn't always an abundance of skills out there. And thirdly, executives are concerned about their intellectual property or their data somehow getting into the public domain and that causing issues. So I'm going to hand over to Richard now, which is going to tell you a little bit more about what came out in the last release with regards to AI. Richard.
Thank you, Martin. So we had our release 4.2 in the beginning of January, and there was really two strong messages we want to tell with that release, which we're going through today. The first one about AI and how we can make it accessible for everybody, not just the people who are already heavily invested within it, but also as well for users of InDesign as well, which we'll touch on in a moment. So the first big story we wanted to tell with the capabilities in 4.2 is making AI accessible for all. So we already had and still do have a really strong message with bring your own AI. So if you're mature with your AI operations, if you've already invested heavily and you have the expertise that Martin was talking about on his last slide within your organization, then you can bring those models, services, and integrate them with next gen. So you can bring all of that investment to us and get all of the benefits, the capabilities I'll talk about in a moment with your existing investment. But we now want to bring all of these amazing capabilities, which I'll talk about in a moment, to those who haven't made that investment, right? Who perhaps aren't as mature with their AI strategy as some of the larger enterprises, or are just beginning to explore these by providing out of the box AI services. Now, these are all powered by Microsoft Azure. I think, we could spend half an hour on the investment they've made in enterprise level AI. And that's really why we've gone with Microsoft, right? Because they are thinking about AI at an enterprise level. Their first thought is always around things like security, compliance with their AI. So we now are able to provide these services out of the box with QPP Next Gen. It's really easy. It's fairly straightforward. It's fast and secure and all of that good stuff. But really, what we want to do is break down those barriers to adoption with AI. What we see is that people are resoundingly interested in it. They're interested in the story we're telling and the capabilities, but the barrier to adoption perhaps is we don't have the skills, we haven't made the investment, and that's why version 4.2 with next gen and it's out of the box AI capabilities is ideal for people who are just starting to explore this. Yep, did that be good? Oh, there we go. I thought we were in for our second technical difficulty there. So I think there's a number of Quark AI capabilities we have within next gen, and as Martin alluded to earlier, it really is around the wheel for us. So it's all stages of content lifecycle management. And all of these options, you can either bring your own AI or we can provide that service to you, right? We just want you to concentrate on these benefits. And for us, we really focus on two key areas. The first one being accelerating your journey to unstructured content, right? So with next gen, you can easily migrate and convert entire unstructured, I should say, documents to structured, reusable, and tagged content within next gen, right? We know that's one of the biggest barriers to adoption with structured content is actually the whole conversion process in itself, actually taking something from PDF, discovering that PDF, in fact, actually being able to discover that PDF and convert it. And with Quark, with QPP Next Gen, you can use natural language search to find unstructured PDFs which contain, you don't have to do the old-fashioned keyword searches. You can actually type in a natural language query, and it will find semantically or relevant content for you. And if you think that's valuable, if you want to use that within your content, at the click of a button, you just convert it and it's immediately transformed into a structured, reusable component. We know the benefits of having that, which Martin talked about at the beginning. You can as well convert entire unstructured PDFs to structured content at the click of a button. So if a typical workflow, maybe, I want to update a particular SOP for a work from home policy, right? I've got my 2023 version there, but it's a PDF. Well, I'm just going to click create new, drag and drop that PDF. And within a matter of seconds, it is now a structured, reusable document within QPP Next Gen. And we can start to see those benefits of having that, the reusability, right? Making sure that you're using the correct compliant versions. And for us, that's one of the key main focus areas of our AI capabilities. It's that discovery of content. So we're not just duplicating content and creating the same content over and over again. So I can search unstructured or structured content using natural language, but then being able to convert that and tag that at the click of a button as well. And really taking something that used to take days, weeks, hours, right, into seconds, really, within with QPP Next Gen. We touched upon it earlier. You know, the second part for us really then as well is what I'd call accelerating or automating the authoring process as much as possible. Now, the key thing here is we always keep the human in the loop, right? We don't want AI running off in the background and deciding what our keywords are or what, writing published content, right? We do this in the way that we're constantly having your contributors, reviewers, authors reviewing what the AI does and effectively approving or rejecting or providing feedback on that. Keyword tagging can be done now at the click of a button, where we can take the content and extract 3 or 4 or however many you need keywords from that. You can review the list that NextGen gives you, and you can choose to prune that, if you will. You can actually create first drafts of your content as well, so that you're effectively removing that whole first step of your content creation process. When you go to create a document, it's QPP NextGen is smart enough to know, well, I'm going to auto-generate content for where it doesn't exist already from your approved content that already exists, right? Not just generating content from the internet, you're generating content from already approved, compliant content within your system. And if we have a component that already exists today, then the AI is smart enough to pick up on that and use that within your smart new document as well. And that's actually what you'll see in the demo, which we'll send out, where when you create your documentation, we use AI to search the repository already for anything that exists that we think needs to be included. If it doesn't, we'll create that first draft for you, so your editors, your reviewers can go in and review that work for them. We can also, use AI to reduce time spent on reworking content, with summarizing, doing content quality checks, and translation. So all of these, I don't want to call tedious, but these day-to-day tasks now, which were previously quite lengthy and manual, and really we can automate these now to free up your writers, authors' time to be doing something a lot more valuable. Cheers, Martin. And then so the second key area of focus with 4.2 is widening our artwork ecosystem by integrating with Adobe InDesign. So we already have a first-class integration with QuarkXPress, where we can have our designers working in that, and we can reap the benefits of having that real-time preview and self-service ability that exists within NextGen today. But we also recognize that a portion of our audience as well utilize Adobe InDesign. It's tremendously popular, and we now widened our ecosystem to integrate with InDesign, so your graphic designers can work within InDesign with the same ease that you can currently work within QuarkXPress. You can, get all of the benefits of having the real-time preview, the self-service layout option changes that exist today can be used and done within NextGen whilst using Adobe InDesign. So we don't care now really whether you use QXP, InDesign. We have, we just focus on the self-service ability that exists within NextGen and integrating within them. For us, it's just about integrating, and you'll see this message, start to be talked about with other use cases. But for us, we just want to go to where you're working today, whether that's QXP or InDesign. We do have a demo of that, and I'm assuming, with the same technical issues exist with that demo as well. So we'll send out a demonstration of our InDesign integration, but it's relatively straightforward, right? It's almost seamless in the sense that it's just people working in InDesign in the background, and all of the good stuff within NextGen works seamlessly with that.
Yeah, apologies that we couldn't get the demos working, but the good news is that we can send you out 2 links, and it's a click-through demo. It's narrated. You click on it, and there is some verbiage on there. Click on it, it will take you through to the next stage. So we'll share those with you, and then you won't be missing out in terms of the content that we would have shown you today. So at that point, we're going to open up for Q&A. So if you have any questions, please feel free to post them in the chat. And stop sharing. Here we get. So for those of you who are not sure, you can either post them in the chat or at the bottom of your screen, there is a Q&A tab. So if you'd like to ask a Q&A question, 2 minutes to see if we have any questions. If there aren't any that you have for us live, quite often the case that when you go away, something might come to mind. When we share the demo links with you, we'll also share an email address when you can contact us with any questions that may have come to mind. Question. Anonymous attendee, can you use QuarkXPress and InDesign hand in hand?
So I assume we mean almost at the same time, and no, not really. We don't typically. I mean, actually, well, I guess you could, but it would be an expensive option. We don't see that as a typical use case. What we tend to see is people either choose QuarkXPress or InDesign. You could use both at the same time, but we would probably at that point advise to pick one or the other, right? They are two competing tools. So it's possible, but I wouldn't typically expect to see it.
Take 4 more minutes, see if we have any additional questions. Wrap up today's webinar. Apologies again for the slight technical hitch, but as we've already discussed, we will share the links for the demos with you shortly. Oh, we have another question from Nikara. How do I make sure my data is confidential with out-of-the-box AIM?
That's a great question. So we get this quite a lot, especially around AI. You know, it's listed in our IDC survey as one of the top concerns, and that's really with our out-of-the-box AI. That's why we've gone with Microsoft, and our entire technology stack is on Microsoft as well. So it's hosted within secure environments. All of the data is encrypted both in transit and at rest, and your data doesn't leave that secure environment, right? We don't, you know, it doesn't go out into the internet anywhere. It's kept all within our clusters, as you like to say, so it doesn't go anywhere. We also go make extra steps, like we don't train our AI models on your data, so we don't retain anything, or we call zero retention queries. So if you were to ask our AI assistant a question, if you were to say, summarize this content, we don't retain any of that information within the large language model itself or within any of our databases. We only track it from an audit perspective that, you know, Martin made this query at this time. So we rely on the security of our standard, you know, SaaS secure protocols. We are using Microsoft Enterprise AI, which is really class leading in terms of security. But then also we take extra steps to make sure that we don't train any of our models or we don't retain any information with any of the queries. It's, you know, and that goes with all of our next gen capabilities, whether that's AI or just publishing content.
Good question, and I think pretty good answer. Thank you, Richard. "30 seconds more in case anybody else has any final on the call. So if you would post it in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen now. Thank you all for your time today, and discuss, we'll share with you two demo links, one that is AI focused and one that is InDesign focused, subsequent to this webinar, so you can look at those at your leisure and look at them more than once if you'd like to. Okay, it just remains for me to thank you all for joining us this afternoon. I see some of the participants are now dropping off. Thank you, Richard, very much for your contribution, and we will get those recordings of the demos back to you shortly. Thank you.